Today on Crooked Mustache, we have this, a 2017 Hyundai Elantra Limited, and we're going to review it and let you know what this little Korean compact has to offer today's pre-owned car buyer. Stay tuned. Now, the Hyundai Elantra was launched over 30 years ago back in 1990, and it was meant to be a competitor from Hyundai for the likes of the Corolla, the Civic, and Mazda's protege. And actually, we've got a review of that coming up, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Now, although it was nothing to write home about in terms of performance and practicality, this was meant to be the affordable alternative to the other name brands. It wasn't until the company's renaissance around the 2010 era when they started introducing things like the latest at that time, Elantra and the Sonata, which shared their fluidic styling, where the company really started to garner attention from people as more than just the budget brand, and people were going specifically to Hyundai looking for their next car. Let me know what you guys think of the Elantra overall, and if you'd like to see a review of the latest one here on our channel, and I'll be sure to bring that to you. In fact, the design of the Elantra was so advanced that even though it still was a compact car, the interior offered as much space as a mid-size car, technically changing the car's classification. For now, let's take a look at this, the 6th generation, or AD for enthusiasts of chassis numbers. And before we go any further, we're going to head inside. Right, now, as I mentioned, the Hyundai is technically classified as a mid-size car in terms of interior space, and you could fit 4 adult men comfortably within the car. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is that the car, this is one of the last cars to have a traditional dashboard layout. Ahead of you, you got a simple instrument cluster with 2 gauges flanking the small driver information display up front. That's where you'll find information like your cruise control, vehicle information such as miles per gallon, station your radio's on, things like that. Then you've also got the standard steering wheel, which unfortunately doesn't come with paddles. That's only available on the Sport, and it's kind of disappointing. But you do have access and controls for everything else. You're pretty much able to control nearly everything you should need to while driving from the wheel itself, not having to take your hands off of it. Now, to the right of the steering wheel, you've got a traditional center console, a standard style radio, which is not a tablet laid and plastered onto the dashboard itself, and buttons. Lots of buttons. I like buttons. Buttons remind you that you're still driving a vehicle and it's not just a big slab of plastic slapped onto the dashboard. Also, something you want to remember is that when you've got a button, you can kind of have some muscle memory as to where a particular control might be, especially if you're trying to access it when you're driving and you don't want to take your eyes off the road. Because remember, even though this is a touchscreen that can control an infinite amount of things because it can display an infinite amount of screens, it is just a featureless slate. So if you're not looking at it, you won't know what you're hitting. Now below that, you've got your climate controls that here in the Limited at least means you get a knob for your temperature, a knob for your passenger's temperature, and these buttons to control where the air hitting you comes from, where it goes to, and how hard it blows. Moving further down, you've got a decent storage pocket, which is nice given the fact that a lot of cars today seem to actually sacrifice small hidey holes and pockets in space of having one giant space to hide something. Behind that, you've got the shifter, which I am slightly disappointed because given the fact that this car doesn't have paddles, it would have been nice to really enjoy the shifter, but like most cars today, with the exception of Mazda, it's mounted back to front. So where it should be forward to shift down and towards you to shift up, it's actually forward to shift up and towards you to shift down. That's an unfortunate thing, but I'm sure it's still fun. It's also in the Limited, flanked by your heated seat controls. The Elantra, unfortunately, does not offer ventilated seats. You're going to have to move up to the Sonata if you want to have that. This is still a car that has a standard handbrake, so there's no button to have to worry about. You've got ample storage here in the center console box and 2 cup holders. It's very well appointed. Now, onto the back. Now, from the back, I can report that while I did have to move the seat up slightly, I did have it really far back, I do still fit in the space that I provided for myself. And like I said, it's not a huge car, but I would be okay sitting back here for a period of time. I don't know how I'd be if we did get into an accident, but there is space in this car for 4 people of my size, which that, growing population of America. Now, unfortunately, being as this car was designed in the early 2010s, while the other one was already in production, a lot of things back here look Spartan, but this is kind of what we needed to expect from back then. So you've got your 60/40 rear folding seats, which does offer a larger compartment if you do need to carry anything that doesn't fit in your trunk. For the rear passengers, there's really no accoutrement. There's no AC vents on the rear. That's a huge downer, but I can feel the air conditioning quite comfortably from the front. The other thing worth mentioning is that there's no USB charging ports There isn't even a 12-volt power port in the back, so that is something to consider, that your passengers won't have the ability to charge their devices if need be. The only real benefit that they're going to have back here is a fold-down armrest, and that's about it. The last thing worth mentioning is that the one option you could have had in terms of equipment would be, had you opted for a limited tech package, you could get a sunroof as part of that, which would be one of the few options you can get on the limited trim itself. So now let's head outside and talk about the exterior of the car. Now, from the outside, we can talk about the styling. When the fifth generation was launched with its fluidic styling, I was very much a fan of it. It was very much love or hate looks. At least that's what I found out from a lot of people I talked to about it. It was definitely a car that split a lot of people, and it was meant to kind of pick up on the bones of its older brother, the Sonata. And I think they did a good job. Whereas when they moved to this, it's designed to be a little bit more mature, and it's definitely going for a more subtle look, with the exception of the enormous radiator grille, clearly adopted from the Veloster hatchback. In terms of styling, they've gone for a more fastback look. Similar to the way the K5 did, as I mentioned in my review, they've actually pushed the rear window out to make the car look as though it's a fastback, and just for a moment, trick you into thinking there's a hatchback there, but unfortunately that beautiful line is hiding a plain old trunk. Now in that trunk,
you'll find 14.4 cubic feet of space with the seats up, and if you need additional space, you can fold the seats down in its 60/40 configuration. Although the pass-through is not the full width, it still allows you to make more use of the passenger compartment,
which should give you adequate storage for small trips. Now, definitely in limited trim with the 17-inch wheels, it is quite a looker. You can go a step further if you want to get the Sport, which not only ups to 18-inch wheels, but gets its own trim-specific front and rear bumper, as well as side skirts. And speaking of adopting the grille from the Veloster, it also adopts the 200 horsepower 1.6-liter turbo engine as well, which does turn it into a small, compact sports sedan, if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. Now, in terms of what's under the hood for the standard Elantras, not the Sport, there are two options. This one comes with the standard 2-liter, putting out about 145 horsepower, mated to either a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. Now, there is an economy turbo, which is a 1.4. That one's rated at 130 horsepower, and it's designed to help maintain similar performance to this, but increase economy on the highway, which it does manage ever so slightly. I would honestly opt for just the standard engine, because most of the time you're going to be on the turbo anyways, and you're not going to reap the benefits of that fuel mileage. Overall, the performance is not bad. The biggest thing that you're going to be looking at with this car is that if you're looking for the part where you need more power, and unfortunately 150 horsepower, it's okay, but when you're talking about other cars that come with base 200 horsepower in today's market, or closer to it, 170, 180, that's when you have to start thinking about merge speeds on the highway. For me, it feels like these days, even minivans are doing 80 miles an hour on the highway. The turn in for this thing and the feeling is very nice. The steering doesn't feel dead as it does in some cars. I believe this is full electric power steering, and this actually feels quite nice. The upshifts tend to have a little bit of a delay on them. It's the downshifts that tend to be... Actually, that's not bad. It's reasonable enough that you could get used to it fairly quickly, and after a while you wouldn't even notice the slight delay. It's nothing like the DCVT that we tested in the Corolla, but it is enjoyable. And as far as the downshifts go, it's definitely something you could actually play with. It's actually quite nice. I would say overall, I would like to have the 3 pedals, because I know that this is available with a 6-speed manual. Or if you went for the Eco, it actually comes with a DCT transmission, a direct shift dry clutch. But unfortunately, Hyundai's dry clutch system, as of the generation of this car, can't handle anything more than the 130 horsepower from the standard engines. So you're never going to get the sport performance in that unless it's been updated with the newer gen.
and as luck would have it, it has. With a starting price of just over $28,000, this N-Line Elantra is quite a looker, and I am really looking forward to potentially driving it in the near future.
They're going to be around the mid-teens, so depending on mileage and depending on trim level, you're going to see these for anywhere between 14.5 to around 17.5, depending on the options and the mileage that's fitted. And overall, I have to say, it's actually not a bad car for the price. It's definitely much better than some of the new options that you're going to be able to afford in the same price bracket. So definitely worth the investment in time to take a look at it. And depending on the transferability of the warranty, you actually might get a car that's still under factory warranty, which is also something to consider, especially buying a secondhand car. So that's the 2017 Hyundai Elantra Limited. It's no longer just the budget option. Now, the Elantra started out as just a placeholder for Hyundai to have some sort of contender in the compact car market, and it's come far in all of the revisions and changes they've made to the model since its inception 30 years ago. They've created a car buying loyalty that means there are people that will walk right past the American, European, and Japanese brands to put one of these in their driveway. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming future videos. Once again, my name is Alfred. Thank you so much for watching Crooked Mustache. We'll see you next time. Dale. Tech package, which was an option on the Limited. It doesn't have a sunroof. Oh, okay. Wow. Completely missed that. Okay.